Codename Leto is a short action film about a high school girl who finds out that her supposedly boring mother actually used to be an assassin. So this story is a love letter to moms. They do so much and they're so strong, but no one ever really notices.
There was something really cool about just watching the nature of the different characters in the film, because you've got assassins fully in black and camo and things with huge weapons fighting a family, so they're grabbing things like irons and casserole dishes and whatever they can find just in normal parent clothing. Watching that dynamic was really cool, to see a mom and a dad completely kicking butt on these assassins. Watching that kind of through line of the story and the theme of the story come through in our fight choreography was really cool.
Fights are completely dependent on the story. That's always where I start, is with like the plot and emotional beats that the fight is constructed around. I'm very lucky to have a couple of people that I choreograph fights with on the regular who are always up to help me.
So I've always really been into action, like coming in here. It wasn't until this past year when Marielle asked me to help on some of her sets that I really got into it. And my dad he's a bit of a martial artist, so I kind of grew up with that.
Marielle and I would break down each fight as far as where it happens in the script, how it starts, how it ends. Then we would experiment with character and what each character's intention is. Are they trying to kill someone? Are they just trying to injure someone? Are they trying to get away? As well as how they're going to fight and what kind of moves or what kind of weapons they're going to use. Then we had fun, and it was like, what are really cool moves that we've seen in movies or that we want to recreate and maybe attempt.
You just get to goof around and you kind of figure out the skeleton, choreography-wise, what works and what doesn't work.
Marielle and I will literally just like stand in front of each other and just like do one move and then be like, hey, now what would you do and what would I do? And it kind of comes very naturally out of like, well, my elbow's right here, so I'd probably elbow you, and oh, but wouldn't it make more sense if you like punched me? And just lots of things like that for hours and hours and hours outside of Marielle's garage on crash pads.
The most important thing for actors is rehearsal. Learning the fight so well that they can just be doing the physical movements of it and focus on the emotional character stuff that is happening at the same time.
Our little fight choreography team has worked together on numerous projects. So the hardest part was choreographing, knowing that we were going to give the choreography to other people and not knowing their skill set.
The film is very specifically about adults. To find 3 women in that age range who have the action background is pretty much impossible.
They aren't comfortable with what they're doing, so you kind of have to maneuver around that and figure out what works best for them.
Another huge challenge was safety.
You have to go through a whole insurance process for stunts.
Our insurance really just wanted to make sure that none of the actors were going to get hurt. That meant that we had to really cut around certain aspects of our fights and cut a lot of it on the day because we realized we just weren't going to be able to do it in a safe way. Luckily, we had a stunt coordinator on set who was really helpful, and he had some really good tips.
You'll first come in here like this, and then some eye contact too. That would be very helpful. Here more length where you could take it right that way.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
And then,
yeah.
When we were starting the choreography process, my amazing DP, who's also a musician, was like, why don't you just choreograph it to an 8 count that we can then compose to?
1, 2, 3, 5, 6.
It just has been so helpful, as I can say, start on the 2nd count and everyone knows where they're starting in the fight.
For one of the scenes, I had a plate smashed on my head. We had to do it 3 times because it was on sugar glass.
Sugar glass melts really quickly, so we could only have it out of the fridge for like 2 minutes, or it would start to melt and stick to everything, which was no fun. Everybody knew that what we got was all we were going to be able to get, so everybody was fully tuned in and focused, and we rolled from 2 different cameras. That way we definitely got it. Getting to watch that playback in slow motion definitely paid off.
Translating the fights I choreograph to the screen is the hardest part of the process because you have to really understand how to make action look good. how the energy of a fight moves and the kinetics of impact and falls. You have to know how to capture and magnify those kinds of movements in camera and editing.
Normally for feature films, it's months and months of physical training and being at the gym and eating a certain way. So on even just this tiny, smaller scale, doing these kind of fights that are us from the ground up, just kind of pulling together what we creatively want. It's so much harder than you think it is, but sometimes it pays off and you get really cool moments, and it's definitely worth it if you can put the work into it.